Hugh Pennycook.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I very much welcome the fact that this House is acting to address the systemic problems identified in the Hackett Review. I also welcome a number of specific measures in the bill. For example, the new standards proposed for product safety and for professionals involved in the design and construction of buildings. What I cannot welcome, and what I find particularly objectionable, given what so many have faced over recent years, is the financial cost this bill will impose on leaseholders if left unamended. That imposition will be felt in part as a result of provisions set out on the face of the bill. Whether it's the direct cost of the proposed building safety charge or the cost of duties imposed on principal accountable persons that will inevitably be passed on, this bill will see leaseholders pay out billions of pounds over the coming years to finance the new regime it establishes. Imposing charges of that magnitude on already hard-pressed leaseholders cannot be right, and the bill, in my view, needs to be amended to ensure a more equitable apportionment of the costs of the new regime. But this bill will also impose costs on leaseholders as a result of what it doesn't contain. In his opening remarks, the Secretary of State cited the extension of the Defective Premises Act, the limitation period changes, and the provisions in the bill that require landlords to take reasonable steps to recover remediation costs. But he knows as well as I do that these measures will only offer limited protection at best. What this bill singularly fails to do, despite, as others have said, the perfectly clear indications given by ministers during the passage of the Fire Safety Bill, that this was the legislative vehicle by which to do it, is to meaningfully protect all affected leaseholders from the costs of remediating historic cladding and non-cladding defects and associated secondary costs, irrespective of circumstance. And it must be overhauled so that it does. Because if not now, then when do we act to protect all those caught up in this crisis? If not by this piece of legislation, then what other? Madam Deputy Speaker, I have no intention of voting against the principle of the bill today. We need a version of it on the statute book as soon as possible. But I say to the Secretary of State very plainly that without amendments to guarantee all leaseholders are fully protected, he will not get this bill through without a fight. The very fact that we are legislating for a radical overhaul of building regulations and fire safety highlights just how flawed the present regime is. We cannot, surely, in good conscience, ask any blameless leaseholder to pay to make good what is, after all, a failure of government-designed regulation and of industry practice. So I urge the government to work with members from across the House to ensure that, come third reading, this bill does right by each and every one of the victims of the building safety scandal.